Hey there, and welcome to Go Far Girl, the podcast where women share the stories that changed them one journey at a time. I'm your host, Chantel. I'm a travel writer and a lifelong wanderer, and I believe that every mile we travel brings us closer to the strongest, boldest, most authentic versions of ourselves. Each week, I'll sit down with incredible women to talk about the trips that shaped them, the lessons they learned along the way, and the power of going far in every sense of the word. So grab your coffee, your journal, or your carry-on, and let's dive in. Hey there, welcome back to Go Far Girl. I'm so excited for our show today, you guys. We're going to dig in here with Alicia. And Alicia is a writer who contributes to the Associated Press. She specializes in travel and food. So obviously, I love her already. She's been traveling with her family for about 24 years and brings a wealth of real world experience to the table today when it comes to planning meaningful and memorable trips. So I'm excited to dig in today, and she's going to talk about Prince Edward Island, which I don't know about you, but I'm not super familiar. So I'm so excited to learn new things. Alicia, tell us about your background first, and then we'll dig into the good stuff.
Well, I grew up as an army brat. And so we moved all over the world. We lived a lot of our lives in the Middle East. Um, and when you live in the Middle East and you go to school, all your school things are all over the world too. So let's say you have a tennis match. Well, you have a tennis match in Greece, or you travel to Abu Dhabi to do United Nations, or you travel. Trying to think of the real actual places, but you get to move around a lot. And my family has always traveled. My grandmother, I think, was first on a plane in the 60s. And when I mean the whole family, I mean the entire family travels. So I don't think I necessarily travel that much more than any of my siblings or my cousins, but I travel a lot more in the US than I think I used to, now that
Okay.
I write a bunch of things about travel and family, because a lot of great family travel stuff is in the US or Canada. And so I probably do a lot of that. So I've been writing for about 10 years on my blog, which is called Travels with the Crew. I started a new one last year. It's called The Seasoned Travelers. I always forget that one.
And I'll have
Um,
both those links down in the description
yeah,
for anyone.
I'm passionate about travel. I love travel. And I love traveling with my family. For me right now, that means my youngest is 17, my oldest is 24, and I've got one in the middle. But we started traveling with them, I think, when my middle one was 3 months old.
Oh,
We went
wow.
to Turkey for my dad's retirement for the army. So we took a 3-year-old on Turkish Air and a 3-month old, and it was a great trip. And so they've been traveling. They've had passports since before they remember. So we're big travelers. We love it, and we love Prince Edward Island.
Yeah. So, how did you start going up there? When was your first trip to Prince Edward Island?
Okay, so strangely enough, we went up for the first time on my husband and my honeymoon.
Oh,
So we wanted to do something that was different. Everyone went the same, like, warm places, and
mm-hmm.
we are not warm weather people. My husband burns if the sun looks at him for 2 seconds. But so we were like, where can we go that's not, we got married in August. And so we wanted to go somewhere where it wouldn't be really too hot. We didn't have time, we felt at the time, to fly overseas. So we're like, well, let's go to Quebec City. We'll stay there for a couple of days, and then we'll take the train over to New Brunswick, be there for a day or two, and then go over to Prince Edward Island, which I knew very little about, except I knew someone who had been, and they said it was beautiful. And I knew all the Anne of Green Gables stuff had taken place
That's
there.
all I know. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I think most people know. And so we ended up in Prince Edward Island for about 5 days back in the early 90s. And it was, well, no, mid 90s, but it was a very different place than it is now. So we live in Connecticut. And, when you travel a lot as a family, you run out of places to travel to that you can drive to. I'm sure you can relate to this.
Yes, absolutely.
All of New England has been explored a million times over. Anywhere south has been explored a million times over. West, all of it. And so we're like, oh, let's start going to Canada, and we did. And so we did a number of trips other parts of Canada before that, but one summer I was like, let's just rent a house and let's take our kids to Prince Edward Island. So 13 years ago, and they fell in love with it immediately, and so we've been going ever since. We go every other summer because we're so busy, but we every other summer in August you'll find us there.
Don't you love when your kids fall in love with a place that you think is cool too?
Yes,
Because sometimes
because
I'll
then
show
you
them
can
something like,
go.
"Oh, I used to love this as a kid," and they'll be like, that's lame." But
Yeah,
not so much places, but like a TV show or something. They're like, "You really like that, huh?" So it's
I
always fun
know.
when you love something and then they also love it. You're like, "Oh, wait,
Yeah,
okay."
and I mean, they were little, so they kind of like anything you tell them to like, when they're young enough. You remember those days when you're
But
just
they
like,
kept
"This is
coming
fun."
back. So,
Yeah, that's true, and in fact, we're trying to figure out this year my son is finishing up school in Utah, and we're trying to get him out. We're trying to figure out a week we can actually do PEI this and Prince Edward Island, you call PEI if
right.
you're in the
For those
know.
who don't know. Yeah, then you're trendy.
Then you're really cool. But we're trying to figure out a time he can come just for a week because it doesn't feel the same if not everybody's there. So
Yeah. So
yeah.
what do you think it is about it that is great for families or even just women in general? Is
Okay.
it's safe,
Well,
it's clean, what
they're pretty much the exact same reasons. So part of it is it's a small farming community. The island itself, I think I've driven it from tip to tip, takes about 4.5 hours, maybe 4 hours to drive. Um, it's long and it's thin. There is a point in Summerside, which is one of the bigger cities, where I think it's like 2 miles, and everything else is thicker than that. But it's not a very big island. You could
yeah.
do the whole island and drive from one end to the other and back in one day. So anyway, but the point is, so it's small and it's a farming community. So the tourism areas are really centered even either in Cavendish, which is where Avonlea, if you're an Anne of Green Gables fan, is supposed to have been in her mind. Obviously it wasn't a real place, but it has really nice beaches in Cavendish. There's tons of things for families to do. Our family is beachy, bikey people, and so we bring our bikes and bike up and down the dunes over by the beach. You can kayak, you can go hiking, although the hiking isn't great. If you're a golfer, there's a ton of golf places, and if you just love Anne of Green Gables, there's a number of things you can see that like Lucy Maud Montgomery's childhood home. You can see Green Gables, which is what she based her aunt and uncle had a house there. She based it off of
Oh,
that house.
wow. Okay.
In terms of safety, I don't think anyone there locks their doors or their cars. I would be surprised. It feels safe, and you're really connected to nature in a way you're not on a lot of other vacations. Meaning, at least for us, that's all we want to do is be outside. It's beautiful. It's temperate. We normally go towards the end of August, and it's generally for Americans. It's generally between 65 and 70 degrees, which is still great for a beach because the water is warm. But it's a very safe and convenient location.
That's awesome. How do you get into it? Where's your jumping off
So
point?
that's a great question. So we drive. They do have an
Okay.
airport, but it is crazy
I
expensive.
bet.
I'm talking like $700 to fly from New York, and we're taking everybody. So
Yeah.
we drive from Connecticut. We live in the New Haven area, and we drive. It's a 13 and a half hour drive, and we do it in one day. We just get it done. There is a ferry that leaves from Bar Harbor, Maine, and gets you to New Brunswick. Which, if you want to, we've done that a couple times when we're like, we can't do this sitting this whole time, and we'll do that. It's a town where you cross over on a bridge that was built from New Brunswick about 25 years ago. And from there, you can go north to Cavendish, which is what we normally do, or you can go west and head up in Charlottetown, which is the capital. And there's quite a bit to do there too.
That'd be kind of fun though to take the ferry and then take a bridge over. That's kind of
I know it is. They
islandy.
used to, the first time we went, you could only get on the island by ferry, which was probably crazy inconvenient for the people who live there, but it was really fun.
Yeah.
But now I think they still have a ferry, but it's the wrong side of the island, and you have to go to Nova Scotia and then take the ferry. So
So it's not
we
as
just tried.
convenient coming from the US.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, so you
No,
just
not from the US.
head up. That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long drive, but we also trained our kids young to like a long drive, or at least to tolerate a long drive, which is
For
always a
sure.
good thing. Yeah.
Do you stay in the same place every year when you go?
I wish. No. So we try to book a house because we want to be able to cook and go out to eat. There's so much fresh seafood there.
I
We
bet.
Nothing is better than going to like they have little stands at all the piers and getting the fresh seafood and then going back and cooking it yourself. And it's cheaper and also it tastes better in my opinion. But no, Airbnbs seem to come up and go away really quickly. Same for Verbos. Um, Places that we've rented, like one that we rented a couple times, is now an ice cream parlor. Another one is now a year-round owner. So it is hard to find the same, but we always stay. Our favorite town to stay in is New London, which is just outside of Cavendish. Um, but we'll stay anywhere in that area. Cavendish is nice to be around because the beaches in Cavendish have a lifeguard. They're red sand beaches,
Oh, no way.
and they tend to have it's the most normal beach, if that makes sense. Like I love the other beaches too, but it looks like you're going to the beach when you're there. They have like restroom facilities, they have snack bar at certain parts of summer. It's more of a regular beach experience, and it's a beautiful beach.
And you said the water's warm too?
Yeah,
That's
it's
surprising to me
really
for some
I
reason.
know, they say it's the warmest north of the Carolinas. So,
Really?
it's very shallow, that's part of it,
Mhm.
but it also has, the Gulf Stream that comes up and brings the warmth up from the south, and so, I mean, my kids are in there even if it's chilly. We once went up and it was like, I don't know, low 60s that whole week. We've also been up when it's been really hot, but and they were still in the water. Of course, I mean, kids are always in the water, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's lovely water. I mean,
That's
I wouldn't
amazing.
swim, but I like to wade in it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I told you already, but I'm gonna have to go.
Yeah, you're gonna wanna go. It's
Now you
beautiful.
said all the right words.
Well, and one of the things that's so beautiful about it is the dirt is all red, including sand, and then you have all this green, and then you have these beautiful cliffs that almost look like they're falling into the water. So it's yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful place.
Oh my
Not
gosh.
very touristy either, which is wonderful.
Which is really nice. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
'Cause, yeah, you can't go anywhere that isn't anymore.
Do you have a favorite place? You've talked about where you like to stay. Do you have a favorite place to eat when you guys do go
Um,
out?
we generally go big and they do, a traditional lobster supper is what they call it, and there's only one that we particularly like. It's in New Glasgow, which is a beautiful town. But, lobster suppers used to be their fundraisers in the Maritimes, and so, let's say somebody needed a new barn because something had blown down, the community would put on a lobster supper, and they always include lobster, mussels. Mussels are a really big deal in PEI. Mussels, they would have like salads and pies at the end, and they would do that to help raise money for people in need. But now, I mean, now I actually have run into like churches that say lobster supper this day, but I've never been because they've been like the day after we leave. But the one in New Glasgow has been running the longest and is probably the best. But I mean, it's so much food. It's like all you can eat except for the lobster. And as we've talked about, I have teenage boys and young adult boys, and all they can eat is a lot.
Yeah.
So, I'll eat a couple mussels and they eat buckets. I mean, they basically pull them out of the backyard because they've got mussel traps back there and they grow them back there and they put them on the table. But yeah, it's very homey. It's not like fine dining, but it's something we try to do at least once. Sometimes do it twice when we're there.
That sounds amazing. That's why
It
I took
is.
my boys on cruises when they were teenagers, is so that they could eat
Oh, they could
and
eat. I
not
know.
Cost me
Not your food. I
$1,000,000.
know. Yeah, they made that money up for you back from the cruise. That's for
Yes.
sure.
I
I
used to
know
laugh.
my
I was
boys
like,
said the
"Ha
same
ha,
thing.
didn't see that coming, did ya?"
Yeah, don't ever let teenage boys on. They still eat so much, but that's always a fun place. That's always a first stop. There's other places we like, but, like, if you want a real true PEI experience, that's where you go.
Well, it's fun to know the history of that too. That always makes it a
Yeah,
little more meaningful when you're eating, just to kinda know those
yeah,
little
for
backstories. I
sure.
love that.
Yeah,
What about hidden gems? Places that you don't find necessarily until you're there for 12 years and you finally stumble across
yeah.
this great.
I feel like everything there is a hidden gem on some level, and I will tell you some more. But truly, most of their tourism comes obviously in the summer. It's cold, cold place in the winter. But it's mostly people from New Brunswick or from Quebec. And not even most Canadians have ever been to Prince Edward Island. So I know a few people who have been that, and I'll run into people sometimes when I'm there that are from Connecticut. I'm like, wow, this is weird. But so it really is not well discovered. But my personal favorite place, if we're talking about Anne of Green Gables, you can go to, it's on Route, is that Route 6? I think it's Route 6 in Cavendish, past Green Gables. And there's a turnoff on the right that is hard to find if you don't know what you're looking for. But it's the next light on the right. And you can go to kind of the area where she actually grew up, Lucy Maud Montgomery. And I don't know why it's such a beautiful spot. And they have like quotes about PEI that she wrote. And I don't know
Oh,
why it's one of
cool.
my favorite places. My kids are always like, we are not going there again. So I go by myself and I love it every time I'm there. It's just beautiful. The way she writes about nature is much more than a children's book author. It's poetry. And I don't know. It's one of my favorite special places.
Yeah, like my sisters and I would love there. We would definitely be going there because I mean, we all read the books growing up and
Mhm.
yeah, that would be amazing. Let's go.
They have a large Japanese population of tourists because apparently Anne of Green Gables is required reading in Japan, and so you will run into a lot of people from Japan when you're there, which is
Who would
really
have known?
interesting.
That is just the most
Only if
random
you're there
tidbit.
would you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
but they're fanatics apparently, so
So it sounds like
that's fun.
summer's the best time of year to visit.
Yeah, I'm sure it would be nice in the fall. We just have never done it, or the spring, but you're not, it's never going to be hot. I mean, I think the hottest, we had a week that was like in the mid 80s, and that felt hot. Nothing has air conditioning. I mean, they don't need it.
They're not equipped for
And
it because they
so,
don't yeah.
so, that wasn't great, but we also went in July that year because we couldn't do August. So, I would say June or August are probably your sweet spots. By the time we go in August, a lot of their kids are back in school or PEIers are on vacation themselves. And so I feel like, there's never very long lines. They have really good ice cream that they make in PEI. And when you're there at the wrong time, those lines are long.
Is
So,
it somewhere you would need a car? You would need to rent a
yeah,
car to get the best out of it? Okay.
there's no way. If you want to go to Charlottetown and just stay in Charlottetown, you could do that, but that's not necessarily where the fun things are. So,
Okay.
yeah, you would need a car. It would be
Okay.
hard to do without a car.
So those are good tips to know. So how does this play into, you're a mom of 3 kids, I'm a mom of 3 kids, and I know that you've
Mhm.
mentioned that moms sometimes, well, not sometimes, we do most of the heavy lifting when it comes to planning and executing these vacations,
Yep.
and sometimes it cannot feel like a vacation by the time you go.
Yeah.
Um, let's just talk about that
Yes.
aspect of it a little bit for all the other moms.
You mean
How
PEI or just in general?
just in general at this point, I mean, if PEI has a great thing that helps you get through those, that's great. But
Well, no, PEI is great just because we've done it so many times, there's nothing I have to do. And if I wanna cook, I cook, and if not, we just eat out.
I love
But,
that.
Yeah, but I mean, normally in terms of preparing for vacation, and this is not to say my husband, who's in the other room and listening, is not amazing. He really is. As the kids have gotten older and we're just traveling together, he will often plan that. And he does a good job, but he says, I can't let go of it either. Because you do most of the work. Now, for me, I think it might skew it that I'm in a business where we travel a lot anyway, and I need to hit certain things depending on what I'm writing about. But in general, I think, if you're taking kids, and I'm talking younger kids on vacation, you're the one making sure that they've packed off the packing list you've given them. You're the one making sure that you have somewhere you can eat right after you get off the plane because they're going to be hungry and grumpy. You're the one who's making sure that the flight times are the shortest flight times you can. I mean, for me, family travel, I plan everything and then I give my husband a day to plan, and I give each of my kids a day that they can pick something they want to do. And that's turned out to be really good for us. But ultimately, the overall planning is always me. And I think that's hard as a mom because, yeah, you get there and you're exhausted already and you still have the vacation to go through.
Yeah.
But I think I changed a lot of it by saying, when we were younger and poorer, we would cook most of our meals in there. But I was like, this is not my vacation. If we're renting a house and I'm cooking the whole time, where is my vacation? And so we solved some of that by going out more. My husband would cook, or I'd cook before we went somewhere. If I could carry it, we still do this, but like I would make, I don't know, something that could easily be frozen. And then we would take that in a cooler up to wherever we were going. And that way the work was done before, which adds to more work before, but I didn't have to stop doing fun things when we were at our destination.
That's a great tip. And I've always made packing lists for my boys too.
Oh, yeah,
Gives
I
them
know.
some of the, responsibility of making sure their own stuff is there. And that's one less thing I have to do. So I think those kind
But
of
did they
tips
do it well for you?
yeah, no, they did pretty good. I had one that would always make me like check it off, and he'd go in there and like make
Uh-huh.
me watch him put everything from the list in the bag. And I'd be like,
Yeah.
okay, I get it. But he's also the same one that didn't bring shoes one time. So I guess it was worth me looking
Oh,
at every
yeah.
single time.
I
Um,
one time opened he was 7 at the time. I opened my son's suitcase, and there was nothing but 2 pairs of underwear in it. And he had been good before, so I didn't check. How stupid was I not to check? We had to just go out. I don't remember where we were. Oh, we were in Ireland. I had to just go buy him clothes. He had nothing but what he was wearing to wear.
that was his plan. He wanted a new wardrobe.
Yeah, at
I
7, he just wanted to be left alone.
I had one time where I didn't do a list. I said we're going driving down to California from Washington, pack a bag. And when I opened it, it was a Game Boy, a coloring book, and like some maybe like action figures or something. But we hadn't gotten the car yet. So they were planning on their entertainment, I guess, which was good. But
Yeah, but they also needed clothes. I know. Yeah,
but like the
you
tip
do
of
have to
cooking
do a
ahead of
list.
time, that's such a good tip.
Mhm.
Yeah, especially if you're
Well, thank
driving
you.
somewhere. I mean, why not? That's a game changer right
Yeah.
there.
We go up to Quebec City for Christmas most years just because it's pretty and it's not a long drive. And I've got to the point where I don't like being at home for Christmas. I don't know why. But so I will often cook before then because I don't want to sit and cook in a Airbnb kitchen that doesn't even have things I need in it.
You're spending half the
So
time opening drawers and trying to figure out what the
yeah,
heck you
no,
need anyways, and then
I've realized if I have time, I'm going to cook ahead. Yeah.
so you said something really great about letting everyone kind of pick a day that they're
Mhm.
get to do something they want. I think that's such a great buy-in for kids, especially when they're younger. Like, okay, you may
Yeah.
not want to go to Anna Green Gables place, but tomorrow's your day and we're all going to do it, so suck it up.
So so my middle son has ADHD and Tourette's and a lot of anxiety. And when he was little, if he didn't know exactly what we were doing each day, it would really stress him out. And which was so hard because I'm not that type of mom who plans everything, to the T. I have a general idea of what we're going to try and get done that day. But also with kids, everything takes longer. So I finally got to the point where I was like, you and your brothers each get to plan your day. And we'd sprinkle them between the days. And we were like, those are the days when you know exactly what's going to happen. And on the other days, I'm going to tell you as much as I know, and we're going to have to try and be flexible. And for some reason, that was enough for him to be able to handle it better. So it was one of those things that was born out of necessity, but has turned into something we still do. Like if we go somewhere, they're like, okay, on my day, we're doing this, or on my day, we're doing this. And they're adults.
No, I
So
love that.
yeah, I think it was just one of those things where you're like, "Oh my goodness, how am I gonna deal with this 6-year-old who doesn't get that you can't schedule everything?" So, yeah, that's kind of what happened. He schedules the best days, actually. One time we were in Ireland, this was a different time than the underwear, but it was pouring rain, and he found a place that had a VR experience, a Viking VR experience. And then after that, he took us to some sushi place that ended up being great, and I was like, "Okay, you can always plan a day. Maybe you can plan more."
You're in
So,
charge.
yeah.
But that's so fun how you took, his needs and turned them into a family
Mhm.
tradition essentially that just really works
Yeah,
for everybody. That's just
yeah.
great.
I
So I think
mean,
that that's
that's what you
something
have
that
to do.
yeah, I think that's a great tip for moms that are
Yep,
listening is we can't
yeah.
force everything to do, we have to kind
They
of
don't wanna do the same things you wanna do is what you it comes down to, and even if you think you're picking kid-friendly things for them, they wanna do what they've picked.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it was a hard lesson to learn, but I figured it out eventually.
And it's paid off. It's paid
Yeah,
off.
sure has.
That's amazing. So, what advice would you give to women who are kind of overwhelmed with the logistics of planning, other than those little tips that I think are great that we
Yeah.
talked about?
I would say I always tell people who will ask me, like, "How on earth do you plan a trip to," like, were we went to Hawaii last summer, and people are like, "How? Like, you haven't been. How do you know? What do you do? How do you do this?" And for me, it always comes down to I start by deciding where we're gonna go, and a lot of that for us is dictated by flight prices. We'll be like, "We have this week here. Where can we go for the cheapest?" And then, I mean, with 5 people, it's not cheap. So after you do that and you decide where you're going, I like to look at what is available to do. And this takes all time. I don't do it all at one time unless we're really like going somewhere like next week and I booked last minute. But I'll look at everything and then I will go through and highlight things or turn down pages of guidebooks of things I want to do. And then I give it to my husband and I say, what are these things are your most important things? He'll list it out. I give it to the kids or I talk about it with the kids. They'll list it out. And that's how I start making an itinerary. However, now I'll just be like, pick your day out of this. Pick your day. I love a physical guidebook. I know that's a horrible thing to say to someone who, makes a lot of their living by having people read what they say. But I like having something physical that then they can look through and say, okay, yeah, this looks like fun. And then from there, once I find out where we're going, then I look, okay, where can we stay so we can hit all of these things? Do we need to stay more than one place? That kind of thing. And then from there, I normally plan about $150 to $200 a day for food. Like I said, I've got boys who were teenagers, and so
Mhm.
I've always had to plan maybe more food than I would want. And then we normally spend another $150 a day on entertainment, and I don't normally book that unless I know I need to. I normally kind of let that go. I'm more a go with the flow kind of traveler, which I know stresses other people out. But my advice would be to do it a little at a time. Most people are not planning a vacation for the next week. They're planning it some months ahead. And I like to get excited by it by doing the research, finding out what there is to do, and then letting the family come in together and kind of make a decision about what they're interested in seeing. So I
I
don't know if
love
that
that.
helps at all.
No, the research is my favorite part. I get so
I
nerdy about it, and
know.
I like the books too. I know I'm
Oh
a
gosh, we're
blogger
both
and a travel
bad.
writer,
I
but,
know.
I like to touch a book, and
What's your favorite book?
I am always, like, going between Lonely Planet and Frommer's is good. But I love going to Barnes and Noble, and I'll just look sometimes for like I like the smaller books
Yeah.
too, because sometimes when they're too
Oh,
big
me
or
too. I don't
cover
wanna
too
take
much of
them.
an area, I get distracted. And so I want like if I'm going to Hawaii, what island am I on? That's the book I'm
Yes,
getting. I'm not
exactly,
getting like
exactly.
Hawaii times
Yeah.
5 or whatever, you know. Like,
I love the eyewitness travel books. They're so goofy, but they have pictures in them, which sounds silly, but when you're doing that with a kid, if they can look at a picture and sometimes it's something they've already seen in school, that gets them excited. So
oh
I always
cool.
get the ones with the big pictures and the
Yeah.
eyewitness ones. They're taller, but they're thin. And they always have a map and then just some info. And not nearly like Lonely Planet or Frommer's, nowhere near as well as good, but I don't know, for our family, that's like what I have a collection of the ones we've been to
I'll
downstairs,
have
so
to look at those because that
yeah.
sounds fun. Because usually, I mean,
They
there's
don't
so
have
much.
the
I was gonna say there's
breadth
just
that
so
they
much information in some of them that it's overwhelming, and I
yeah,
kind of just scan through and catch out the highlights. But if it's like that,
yeah,
that's perfect.
yeah, that's why I love him. I
Like,
like, if I even am thinking I'm going somewhere, I keep my eyes out at the thrift store. I always find ones that I'm not planning on visiting, and I grab them anyway because 'cause they're like 50 cents to a dollar, and
yeah.
then if I don't have it in my collection, then I go get that.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Thrift store for guidebooks too is something I hadn't thought of.
Yeah, I love it.
Ooh, such a good
Yeah,
idea.
I know, and then it makes you dream about it and you end up going anyway, so
Yes. But I think like the bottom line is it's always worth it, right? All the
of
stress, all the
course,
packing, all the
of course.
mishaps, whatever. You always come home with a lifetime of memories, something that you and the boys will talk about
Yeah.
forever. And
Well, and it's something that you've had these amazing experiences of learning something together, and I think that's even bigger than just, like, being together. It's like you're learning about somewhere that you're going along with them. You don't know any more than they do, and that it doesn't happen very often as a parent and a child, and for me, that was, like, the big takeaway always. It's like, "Oh, we don't know about this, but we're gonna learn about it together," and to me, that was always really special.
well, and I think and my your boys probably too, but mine are also different, even though they were, raised by the same parents or whatever. But you get a view of a place from 4 different sets of eyes and opinions. Because I saw something this way, and then one will be like, "Oh, but did you notice that this?" And then the other one will say, "Oh, because I was looking at that." Like everyone has their own thing, their own
Yeah,
experience in the same place. And
yeah.
then I always love to look through my kids' pictures after places
Uh-huh.
because
Oh, the
they're
things
all
they
so
take pictures
different.
of. Well, some
They're
of them
so
are bad.
different. Well, some of
Like,
them are girls, but yeah.
well, I had one where my son took pictures of every animal, and that's all he took pictures of. Rats, birds, cats. I mean, I was just like, "I'm so glad we took you to Italy."
But it's so funny now, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yes, of course.
that's what he was paying attention to
Yeah,
at that
that's
trip.
what mattered to him. Yeah,
And you have
exactly.
landmarks, you have the real
It's
pictures,
true, he doesn't need them.
and
And
you
I
can
asked him, I
supplement
said
with rats.
yeah, I was like, "Why are you taking pictures of rats?" He's like, "They're so cute." I'm like,
Okay, well,
"We
that's
have
not
different
great, but
ideas of cute." He's
that's so
alright at that
funny.
one. I know.
Oh, don't you love them? That's so funny.
Yes, they're the best.
Oh, I love that. Well, thank you so much for talking to us today.
You're so welcome. It
I
was
think
really
we
fun.
learned a lot about Prince Edward Island, but also just some little good tidbits about traveling with our kids and our families. What's up next for you guys? Are you going to PEI this year?
We're hoping to. A lot depends. My son is trying to see if he can take one final a day early so that we don't I mean, we'll have to fly him out either way, which is horrible because it's so expensive, but
Yeah.
he wants to be there for the whole week. So yes, we're trying to late August. Um, and then what's next? I'm doing a paper about or an article for AP about multi-generational family resorts. And so we went to one last week. We've got one this coming weekend, the next coming weekend, the weekend after that. Then it'll be all written. So that's kind of what our family's up to right now.
Are those all in the Connecticut area? The resorts that you're going to?
They're all in the Northeast.
Okay.
So they're all like within 2 to 4 hours. I
Okay.
think Maine is the farthest one, but yeah. So it's really, I didn't know all of these things existed. We were too busy, traveling other places, not
Yeah.
doing resorts at home. But it's
Yeah.
kind of fun.
Isn't our job the worst? Like, we have to do all this hard research. It's
I know it's
exhausting.
really
Like,
miserable.
you have to go to another resort this weekend, and it's just but someone has to
I
do it. So,
know.
like, I appreciate your service.
Well, thank you. I
Good for
appreciate
you.
yours. I know. I think it's funny because I also work as a teacher, and when they're like, "What are you doing this weekend?" I tell them, they're like, "Well, like you just have fun all the time." I'm like, "Yeah, but you don't see me on Monday morning at 6 in the morning when I'm trying to write that article while trying to also make sure my kids are awake."
Yeah.
That you don't see the yucky part of it. The yucky
Yeah.
part isn't that bad, though.
It's not that bad. I always try to, like,
Uh,
get some of my writing done on the plane ride home. I'm
oh,
like,
I do
"Look."
too, and then I'm always too tired because I go, like, hard until we get there. It takes me 2 days to recover these days,
Yes.
but
So
anyway.
awesome. Thank you so very much.
You're so welcome.
I wanna have everybody follow you, so go ahead, and even though I'll have the
Oh,
links in the
okay.
descriptions, tell us where we can find you.
So Travels with the Crew is probably my largest site, but I started a new site called The Seasoned Travelers with an S, and there's a lot more food in that as well as things that we have done more recently. I think Travels with the Crew skews a little more younger children, and The Seasoned Travelers is more a place to be when you're traveling with just random members of your family.
Thank you so much for
Hey,
joining us, Alicia. That was
you're
amazing.